Hello, internet friends. Welcome back to the Dailey Blend Show. My name is Reed Dailey. If you are new around here, this is the Friday Top 5 segment where we feature 5 things I thought were interesting, notable, or culturally significant. This week we are talking about a lot of music, or things in and around music. So we've got stories of the Netflix trailer, or not trailer, but show on the formation of Spotify. HMV relaunches wax printing and has some new artists that they're featuring. And then we're jumping into, one of my favorite things, which is sneakers, and some new ways that Amazon is getting even creepier yet better with tracking. Before we jump into the show, I wanted to remind everyone that my other podcast with my good buddy Greg Larson is now officially up. If you follow my Instagram or have listened to me on social, you'll know that Greg and I are doing a podcast called Negronis with Greg, where we are walking through Matt Horanik's Negronis book. The idea is that Greg and I have scored 31 of the recipes that Matt put together for the book. And we're rating them on taste, balance, and look. We've recorded 3 episodes to date, so it's the kind of 000 episode just to get us up. The first episode, which we've recorded and published. The second episode, which I will have up on Negronis with Greg podcast, and then we'll republish on Dailey Blend on Monday, the 24th, and then ironically we're going to record the third episode that evening. So go check out our Instagram, Negronis with Greg, and you can see the show kind of details and behind the scenes. What we're doing is Greg and I are both making the cocktail and then voting, or not voting, but showing, taking pictures and having all of our fans and followers vote on who made it better. So go check out Negronis with Greg. You can find it on Google, Apple, Spotify, as well as PogPage, a pretty cool little website aggregator for podcasts. And with all that said, let's jump into the show. So the first story comes in from Amazon, and it's called the Halo Rise. And what it is it's bedside sleep tracker, wake up light, and smart alarm. With privacy concerns in mind, this device is able to perform its duties without needing any cameras or microphones, using contactless sensors to sense movement, only the primary user close to it, and only when that person is trying to fall asleep. So I'm guessing there's some sort of motion that kicks on and knows when you've been sleeping, and then once you are asleep, it helps understand how long you've been asleep and then helps you rise. So using machine learning, the Halo Rising recognizes sleep stages and looks to wake you up in the morning as the latest stage of sleep, using a gradual brightening glow to optimize restfulness. The device can also keep track of environmental data in the room, including the temperature, humidity, brightness, which can be referenced when analyzing sleep. Additionally, HelloRise can be integrated with Alexa features, such as designated personal wake-up songs and setting routines, such as automatically dimming the lights at a certain time. It's going to be $139.99 US. So let's just talk about this thing. I have Hue lights in my bedroom. I typically wake up between 5 and 5:30, so the automatic lights that we have set up don't really impact me. But the few times that I have used those lights, or those lights have, turned on while I am sleeping, they're very nice, and it's a much nicer way to wake up than having some sort of alarm, although I use my Apple Watch and have just like a little vibrating on my wrist, which doesn't bother me that much personally. The whole concept of being able to track this, I mean, you've got, all the different wrist sensors and finger sensors, and this is just another tool in the toolkit. But I do like the concept of the light waking me up and the ability to track my REM sleep. I'm not sure. I mean, I do get some of that data through my Apple Watch because I sleep with it on. Although I don't look at it outside of probably, I think I kind of glance at how many hours I get. And I do notice that if I get sub 5 hours, then life's pretty bad. But I think in my lifetime or in our lifetimes, sleep is going to become more of a focus and just as much about like your performance. It's like your recovery. It's almost like a plan, do, review kind of model of life. And I think this, is one of the newer pieces of tech from Amazon that I'm pretty excited about. And, I'll be interested to see how it integrates with Alexa. At $139, a little expensive, but you've got the Christmas or holiday sales coming up, and then next year you'll have Amazon Day, so I'm sure this will drop down to $99, and then version 2 will come out, so we'll see it down at $79. So eventually I'm probably going to purchase one of these devices. Okay, so let's jump into the second story. This one, I'm not very good at remembering what I saw on TV from a trailer standpoint and then watching it on Netflix. Usually, my spouse does that, and she does a great job. This one, however, I am a huge fan of music. I think Spotify is great. I love the fact that it's, so socially, there's the social integration, thanks to Facebook being very involved with it at the start. So it was led by Daniel Ek, or Ek, I think is how you say his name correctly. But it's not a documentary, but it's a story that basically follows a group of passionate young entrepreneurs who come together in what seems to be impossible tasks to change the music industry and the world. They set out to create a legal streaming music service. It's fictionalized account of the Swedish tech entrepreneur and his partners as they set out to revolutionize the music industry with a legal streaming platform. The Playlist, which is coming out on October 13th, so it's already out. If you haven't heard of Spotify, well, get it up from under a rock. So this was crazy. I remember like being at record labels or being connected to folks at record labels and talking through this. And at the time, I was very much into vinyl and CDs, and streaming was crushing the industry. Just illegal, Pirate Bay. And looking back at it, it was like, people would spend hours trying to find one or two songs. It was just like, it was just not a good format. And I obviously have heard artists are not thrilled at their revenue splits for some of the streamings, and I'm not trying to argue for or against that. I just think the fact that you've got these legitimate providers, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, etc., that provide your music, it's pretty incredible. You can get pretty much any song in a couple clicks. You can stream it, you can download it to cache. The fact that I've got them now on my Apple Watch it's just a fantastic experience from the end user perspective. And obviously, Spotify's getting into the podcast, both audio and video, and one's going to assume that they'll get deeper into like spoken word and things like that. All right, let's try this some more. Okay, we're back. My mic just decided to cut out. So I mentioned at the start of the show that this was going to be an episode that featured quite a lot of talk of music. And the next story I am thrilled to sort of talk about. HMV is relaunching wax printing. And HMV has announced that it will be returning to wax printing after the inception of its brand new record label, 1921 Records. One would assume that's when the brand was started. The label made its first signing earlier this week with Newcastle singer-songwriter Andia Arkeen. Oh, man, I'm just really bad at pronouncing names. Making her the first HMV signing in more than 20 years. Indiana Arkin's first release on 1921 Records, Home Truce, will be available exclusively in all HMV 115 retail stores around the UK and everywhere else on its online shop. It will launch to align with National Album Day on October 15th. So this means that the album is out. Now here's a quote from the president. With our new label, we want to get what we can to help debut artists make their mark in a tough industry. Streaming algorithms means it's harder for new artists to get their voices heard, so we'll be giving them a chance to get their albums in stores where music fans can discover them for themselves. For the most part, it will be unknown, although we will never turn down, hey, like Ed, as in Ed Sheeran, and that's supposed to be a joke, says Doug Putman, HMV's new owner, who helped rescue the retailer from administration in 2019. So, this is a great story. This is a comeback story where HMV, the picture is of Doug sort of sitting or standing in front of a ton of vinyl. As someone who, still buys vinyl, that lived for going to record stores, that loved going to record stores, it was like one of my favorite things. From like dusty Princeton Record Exchange all the way into HMV stores where I would dig through the crates literally for records and CDs. And I remember reading magazines and seeing what was going on around the world. And I think that's probably a big reason why I wanted to go work at DJ Times Magazine, just because I used to read it. And I thought it was really cool to see the life of these artists and what they were into and all the interviews. So hats off to Doug and his team, for I'll call it the restructuring. I'm guessing there was some of that, and then relaunching the record label and all the success. So the next story, obviously, we're going to go talk about Indian Arkin, who I think I'm finally saying her name right. So she is a singer-songwriter based in Newcastle. Having always had artistic drives at the forefront, Indian's original move to the city to study fine arts and began recording music for her solo project through the lockdown in 2020. It's crazy that was 2 years ago. Launching her debut single, Dashboard Dancing, in August 2021, she quickly caught the attention of the BBC, finding heavy rotation on BBC, introducing Northeast, and BBC introducing Tease. So I don't know what that actually means. I'm guessing that is some show on the BBC. Her debut EP, No Innocent Bystanders, later featuring Tom Robinson's Radio 6 mixtape, and earning her a residency at the Sage Gateshead. So I'm guessing all of these are a combination of radio shows and then live performance venues. So she continues to toe the line between her music and fine art creative practices further as she develops herself as a musician. That is a very artistic description. Anyway, so if you go to daileyblend.com, you can check out her YouTube video that I posted. I also linked to her website, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Spotify, and email. I don't see that many emails on websites anymore. Anyway, hats off to her. Hats off to H&M for relaunching their record label. Looking forward to seeing the artists that they produce or feature, I suppose. All right, so let's close the start talking about Bapes. So if you're less familiar with Bapes, it was started by Nigo in Japan, and between his relationships with Pharrell, they started Billionaire Boys Club, and then I think, Play Clothes with the Clips. Anyway, so Bape looks like Nikes, I will personally say, but they have this really cool star logo. My love for the brand is long stood. It's like 20 years in the making. The first pair I actually saved up and bought, I brought them home and my house was so dirty. I tried them on and they were a little too small. And at the time, Bape was like really weird about returns. So I tried to return it. They're like, "You've worn these." I was like, "I tried them on, man." And so I've had the same half size too small shoes in my closet for 20 years. Anyway, these look kind of closer to the Air Force One, which I used to not really give a lot of credit, and I've gotten a couple of Flynet ones, and I'm a big fan. So I'm thinking I need a new pair of Bapes. So they've got purple, sort of like a Tiffany blue. It's not exactly Tiffany blue, but it's close. They've got a black, kind of like the Panda Black, Panda Dunk that's out right now that everyone wants, in sort of a tan cream color, however you want to think about it. Anyway, they launch for about $315. You can get them on Bape's online website. You can get them from secondary resellers. They look cool. It's something slightly different. So if someone's like a sneakerhead and they're like, no, look closer. No, even closer. You're like, hey, these are Bape's. And it's just a good conversation starter. Obviously, I'm a big fan of sneakers, so I'm going to talk about them. Anyway, that wraps up this week's episode of the Friday Top 5. I think that I am debating moving sort of the structure of the show to what I'm going to call a weekly rundown, which just highlights all the things that I'm doing across different social channels as well as what's in the news, and then keep the Friday Top 5 really for just like 5 quick things that I'm interested in. So the Friday Top 5 will be like roughly a 10-minute show, whereas like the weekly rundown would be, a wider range of topics of things that we're doing and featuring on Dailey Blend, as well as that what I'm doing in my personal life in and around music, entertainment, culture, etc., etc. So I'm going to play around with that over the next couple weeks and just see if I like that show structure. And if it sticks, we'll roll with it. If not, we'll just stick with the Friday Top 5. But as always, thanks for tuning in. You can like, follow, and subscribe to me on Dailey Blend. At Dailey Blend, it's DAILEY BLEND. Or you can find me, Reed Dailey, that's REEDDAILEY on Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget to follow the show, like the show, subscribe to the show on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple. And enjoy your weekend. It is pretty warm up here in Chicago, so I'm going to get out and play a little paddle, run around the block, and hang out down by the beach. Hope to catch you next week. Thanks.